All right, check the mic. We're reacting to breaking news here. The Texans signing Nick Chubb, former Browns running back, been with the Browns since 2018, second round pick. Nick Chubb has been outstanding. He's battled so many injuries throughout both his college and NFL career. But Houston Texans going in on Nick Chubb here. What are your initial thoughts, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, we've said all offseason, look, I love anybody kicking the tires on Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has been top 2 running back in the NFL since he came into the league before he had that, horrible, devastating knee injury that blew his leg apart. Clearly wasn't the same guy last season when he came back. I mean, coming back in the first place is insane, right? Like, let's give him credit for that. Amazing to battle back from that horrible injury. Comes back last season. All the numbers are down. The PFF grade is down, and visibly he wasn't the same guy on tape. You could see it, but like he went from averaging, 3.5, 4 yards after contact per attempt to averaging 2.5. I mean, these are the types of drop offs we saw from him, averaging 5-6 yards per carry to 3.3. He wasn't the same player, but he's only 29 years old. He's shown incredible resilience to battle back in the first place. Absolutely. Let's see if he'll be a different player this year. A year removed from that injury. It's a 1-year deal. There's probably not going to be any kind of downside to it. So love the idea of kicking the tires on Nick Chubb and seeing if he can become the player that he used to be.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, all of the resilience that Nick Chubb has shown throughout his career, including college, I would not bet against him. I would absolutely not bet against him. I'm all for the buy low. Last year is the only year of his career that his yards per attempt number started with anything but a 5. I mean, there was a 6 in there in a small sample, but 5.1 yards per carry over the course of his career. There was a point, I mean, we just saw Saquon Barkley win the MVP, and the way I always tried to describe Saquon Barkley's game was that if you give him a crease, he could take it to the house, but he's not great at creating his own yards. But I always said Nick Chubb kind of does both, right? He creates his own yards, and he turns the 0-yard gain into 4 and the -2 into 3. He does that really well, better than Saquon, but he also, in his prime, had the big play ability. Now, he didn't have that same type of ability last year. Did not have the same dynamism, didn't have the same big play ability. But yeah, why not see if another year removed where the dude's like squatting 1,000 pounds and workouts and everything, why not see if he could translate that on the field? So I love that as a concept for the Texans. And then you look at the fact that I thought the Texans offense last year was very dependent on Joe Mixon. Shockingly, right? For someone who believes it's a pass first league and it's all about the pass game, the number of games that they relied on Joe Mixon, 20, 25, 30 carries at times. And he's getting older right now. So now just having a security blanket for Joe Mixon, who they relied on so much last year, I think is really smart for the Texans.
Yeah, Mixon's older is probably sort of declining from his best as well. And I don't think it's ever been as dynamic and explosive as Nick Chubb has been at his best. So if you do get something like that player back again, it's an upgrade for Joe Mixon. And if you don't, it is potentially some kind of insurance policy or backup option if Joe Mixon isn't quite the player that he's been in the past as well. So very little downside from a Houston point of view. Like it's difficult to look at this and say there's any way this can go badly. The worst that can happen is, they look at it and Nick Chubb is the same guy he was a year ago, and that knee injury has effectively, ruined his career in terms of what he can be. And then either you just have him there as that type of player on the roster, or you cut bait and move on with a no harm, no foul type of release.
Hey guys, just taking a quick break to tell you, hey, just over 50% of you are still unsubscribed to Check the Mic. It helps the channel. It helps to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. So if you have a chance, hit the subscribe button right now. Depth chart wise, Dameon Pierce still there in Houston. Woody Marks, they made a big move to go get Woody Marks, giving up next year's 3rd rounder to go get him. USC running back. I think they want him. Marks, catching the ball out of the backfield. I think there's still a role from him. It looks like Dameon Pierce would be, if Nick Chubb is healthy, would be the odd man out. And, a 1-2 punch of Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb. Again, I love the upside shot here for Houston. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I'll just say I've compared Nick Chubb to Saquon Barkley on this show. How about Derrick Henry? I mean, if there's a guy that I would expect to age well at the running back position, despite all the injuries, I would say to go with Derrick Henry, it would be Nick Chubb. And ready to be proven wrong on that. Certainly didn't look great coming off of the bad injury last year with Chubb, but another year removed. This could be it where you could get another year or two out of Nick Chubb of really high production. He's just such a good overall runner. I think it's worth a shot here for Houston.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm willing to sort of throw him into the same category as the Derrick Henry in terms of being the exception. Like Derrick Henry, I think, has been the exception for basically every step of his career. Every rule that usually applies to running backs simply does not apply to Derrick Henry. I don't know that it ever has. And so at this point, you just have to say, I'm willing to, all bets are off with Derrick Henry. Let's just see what happens, because there's no trying to apply regular running back rules to Henry. I don't think that's the case for Nick Chubb. I think he's like the top of the human spectrum for running backs. Like the rules still apply to him. I think we saw that last year. You went through his knee. He came back. The recovery was remarkable, but he wasn't the same guy. This is not like Adrian Peterson when he came back, and Peterson's sort of in the Derrick Henry bucket of the rules don't apply to Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson came back from a knee injury and like won MVP, right? Like that's not normal. That's not supposed to happen. Nick Chubb came back and did not look like Nick Chubb. So I don't think it means he can't get back there, but it's going to take another year, right? It's going to take this offseason to figure out if he can get that explosiveness back and if he can become maybe not even the player that he was, but like 90% of the player that he was instead of 60%. I think maybe that's on the table, but this is why it's a 1 year roll of the dice, no risk type of deal, right? The league is not confident that version of Nick Chubb is there to be rediscovered.
So Nick Chubb, still a human, but worth rolling the dice
Officially
on him. Last thing I'll add, I think slightly different running style than Joe Mixon, who's more of a zone, I think gliding style at this point in his career. I think Chubb has that downhill tackle breaking ability, certainly better than Mixon when he's at his best. Plus, like I've said, if he has that speed back, he does have the big play ability, where Mixon's the type of guy who's going to get you the 10 to 15. Like his breakaway runs are getting you 10 to 15, but Nick Chubb can take it to the house if he gets that. If he gets that step back. So I think he adds a slightly different style to this Texans backfield. Love it for Houston taking a shot on Nick Chubb.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.